as a society in general, the feeling that we have around sadness is that sadness is weakness, and that is a negative emotion, and that feeling sad or being sad is a bad thing. Of course, that depends a little bit on each family and how, our parents model to us, like, how do you deal with sadness. In my family, there was kind of like this background feeling of like sadness was kind of not accepted. I felt as a child like it was not okay to specifically express sadness. I learned to just deal with my sadness by myself. So oftentimes if somebody hurt me, or if I felt hurt about something, or something made me sad, I would just always like look for like a private place to be alone, like go to the bathroom or like under my bed, or like hide somewhere, and then I would just like cry by myself, and I would just let myself cry out whatever I needed to cry out. Through experiencing sadness like that is that I learned that sadness for me felt comforting. Like, it just felt like the sensation of like someone that you love giving you a warm hug, or, when you're sick, drinking like a really warm, nice soup, like this feeling of like, I don't know, like being held and like being comforted when you really need that. I just cannot recommend the movie Inside Out more. I think it's such an amazing, beautiful movie for kids, but also for adults, because it really shows about like emotions and how us as humans, how we like work internally, and how our emotions are, I'd say, the biggest driving force when it comes to our actions and our choices and our life. A huge character of the movie is sadness, right? And I love this idea that like at the beginning of the movie, Joy, that is like the authentic self of the little girl, is kind of really afraid of sadness. Like, Joy just doesn't know what to do with sadness. Like, she just feels like this character, this emotion is really out of place, and she doesn't know what to do with it. But through the journey of the movie, she really learned that like sadness is not here to ruin things. There's nothing about sadness that's gonna hurt you. Like, she's just here to comfort you and to like provide a certain type of comforting that other emotions cannot really do for you besides just sadness. And that the magic of sadness is that she's not doing anything, she's not fixing anything. All her purpose is just to just sit with the disappointment, with the hurt, with the tears, to just sit with it and just to accept it. And I think that's just so beautiful, and I feel like that's so true about sadness. We as human beings, we're designed for survival, to just be afraid of things that we don't know. So whatever is the unknown is really scary. Even if that unknown is actually something good, and even if we are in a moment in a state of like a lot of pain. When we grew up in an environment, in our home, in our family, or in a society where like it tells us that sadness is weakness and that you shouldn't feel sad, it's like this energy of like constantly pushing sadness away. Like, oh, don't interact, like in the movie, don't interact with this feeling, don't interact with this person, because we don't know what to do with them, like we don't know how to deal with them, if that makes sense. Then we kind of like never truly allow ourselves to experience sadness and to feel sad. So then feeling sad becomes something really scary, not necessarily because it's something dangerous, but because it's something that we don't know, it's really unfamiliar and we don't have experience in. Psychologically, like, and physically, an emotion is just simply like a mixture of sensations in our bodies that create like a reaction, right? So like, let's say like if I'm nervous, like my hands can start like shaking, or my hands can like start like sweating. And that's just a sensation, and that sensation creates like expresses through my body. So it's just like a sensation that's just happening in my body. But more than anything, the fact of the matter of my hands shaking and sweating is just a sensation, right? That it becomes physical, but it's just a sensation. And sometimes we can be like so terrified of these things called emotions because we just have never been modeled how to deal with them and how to process them. But actually, if we just allow ourselves to just sit in the moment and to sit in the emotion and be able to identify what we're feeling, we can see that it's just sensations. Like sadness just feels like blue, right? Like what would be a color? It would be like blue. And I love that because I love that sadness in Inside Out is actually blue, because that's exactly what the color that I picture. And it's specifically that type of blue, right? Like, it's blue. And for me, I relate sadness a lot with like water. And like a lot of times for me, sadness comes from a feeling of pain. Like I have a lot of pain, and the pain is really scary to feel. And the water is not just a little bit of water, it's a lot of water. So it's like a lot of, there's like a depthness to this pain, and there's a depthness to this water. And what I imagine and like that I do, and like how I like feel in my body, and like what I envision is like I get into the water that is really deep, and I'm really scared of it. And often the water is not cold, it's not hot, it's just like warm. Like it's like whatever the perfect temperature for my body feels like water, that's like this comforting water. But even though it's comforting, it's scary because it feels really deep, and because it's just a lot of it. So what I envision is like I get into the water, and then I swim to the bottom of the pool. Like there's like a pool, and I swim to the bottom of the pool, and then I just sit like Buddha, meditating. I sit in that pool of water. I'm sitting in the bottom, and I just sit there, and I just feel the water around me. How there's so much more water in this pool than there is me. Like this water is so much more than me. And that's scary, but it's okay, and I'm just sitting here. And it's just heavy, and there's like the weight of the water, because I'm at the bottom of the pool, there's like the weight of the water on top of me, and like the pressure of that. But the pressure is not excruciating. It's uncomfortable, but it's not really excruciating. And I just sit there, and I just sit there as long as I can until, I don't know, until just the water is just gone, or until it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore, and then I just swim back up. I would like wake up sometimes like in the middle of the night, and I will have this sensation. It was mostly like in the middle of the night. I would just wake up, and I had this sensation that like in my chest, where like my heart is, there's like a hole, and the hole goes through me, and it's like super empty. Like inside the hole, like it's just emptiness. And for some reason, this emptiness feels like sadness. And it's not so much pain, it's not anything that is like hurting, it's just the sensation of empty. And for some reason, the sensation of empty is so terrifying, because my ego, my mind cannot identify it. Like I cannot name it, I don't know what it is. It's just nothing. But even the word nothing feels like too much, because it's nothing, that even nothing cannot be there. I guess it's like how I imagine like the outer space feels like, just like empty, no sound, no gravity. It's just nothing. But at the same time, this sensation of like this empty sadness, it also feels like peaceful in a way. Like there's no noise, like out of space, there's no noise, there's no distraction, there's just nothing. And there's like a undertone of like peace in it. So I feel like when we really get into these sensations, we can realize that we're so terrified of it, and we sometimes like we're so scared that we don't really like sense much of it. You know what I mean? Like we just label it like something, but we don't really want to feel it. But when we really dive into feeling these sensations, we realize that they're not negative or positive. They just sensations. And even though there's aspects of these sensations that are really heavy and uncomfortable, there's other aspects of it that are kind of comforting and warm and like nice about it. My body just feels really heavy. Like it feels like my soul, like the energy in my body is just, everything is super, super heavy. Like if I weigh like 150 pounds, this is like, I don't know, 2,000 pounds. Like, I don't know. It's like the everything in me, it's just like feels really heavy, and my body is just really like kind of like exhausted. And that also has a feeling of like sad exhaustion. And oftentimes, like when I have the sensation, I guess like I behave in a way that in our society we call depressed. It's like I just don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to like, I just feel like this heavy thing that just want to lay and like follow gravity and just not do anything. And every time when I sit in that sensation and I just let the sensation guide what I need and just rest, you know, like there's like this need of rest, this need of like just do nothing, think nothing, just, you know, I realized that's kind of what I needed. Like it was like a deep, profound exhaustion of like the soul. And I think probably for a lot of us, depression is probably that. Like it's like an exhaustion of your soul, either because you've been in survival mode for a long time, or because you're kind of playing these characters and these masks in your life, in your work, in your interactions with people, or there's something that you're doing that is taking more energy than you have, or you're carrying so much pain or so much trauma or so much weight that you haven't dealt with. You just keep carrying that, and that is too heavy to bear, too heavy to carry, and your body just kind of shuts down in a way of like looking for a way to rest, or looking for a way to just recover for this the heaviness of carrying this thing that is so heavy. Feel the sensations and really like try to name like, what are you feeling when you feel sad? What are you sensing in your body when you feel sad? Lastly, I think that for me, the most common feeling of sadness in my life has been like when I feel hurt or like really angry at something, and there in the sense like I feel like it like they're like words, or my voice, like something that I need to say or that I want to say gets like stuck in my throat. It feels like all this energy is in my throat and it's gonna like explode inside of me, and then that just turned into tears. Like that I just cry and cry and cry, as a way to like try to express with my body, I guess, what I feel like I can't express with my words, or I can't express with my voice. And every time I just cry and let the tears come, I feel like at the bottom of that barrel, like there is just kind of like joy. Like there's this release, this sensation of peace. It's like not joy of like, oh my God, I'm so happy, everything's so great, but like a joy of like peace, of like surrender, like surrendering to what I'm feeling and surrendering to my humanness. And I feel like a lot of accepting emotions and processing emotions is just surrendering to our humanness, surrendering to the emotions, surrendering to the sadness, and accepting her, and just embracing her, you know, with all her glory, with everything. Sadness, if you accept her and if you embrace her and if you listen to her, she can be an amazing guide into like how to find joy, funny enough, like because we can see that our emotions are always teaching us something. They're always communicating something to us, and the problem is that if we don't listen to them and we don't process them and we don't allow them to be here, right, in our bodies, then they cannot really, like, we don't really allow ourselves to listen to the message they have for us unless we allow them and we listen to them. I love this quote that I have in my phone, actually, like on my screen, but it says something like, you know, there are certain emotions about life that are uncomfortable, but the purpose of life is just to feel everything. Even what is uncomfortable is just to feel it all, because that's truly the true beauty and the true joy and happiness of life is in your ability to feel.
I don't know what's wrong, but something isn't right. I feel I belong.